This is Darker Days Radio, episode number 57, To Dream in Hell. I'm one of your hosts, Mike, and joining me this fine summer, well, it's day outside, but we're going to say it's evening, we've got, of course, Chigg. How's it going, Chigg?
Pretty good, Mike. How you doing?
Doing all right. And, of course, coming in second, the second episode in a row, Chris. How's it going, Chris?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Oh, yeah, pretty good. How do you feel about me introducing Chigg before you, which is what I've done the last two episodes?
Shit before shovel.
All right, nice. All right, cool.
Well, I was okay with it, but now I'm not sure.
Excellent. So on today's episode, we're going to cover a couple listener-submitted questions about changing the dreaming. Then we're going to have a secret frequency on Voices of the Dead. And also, we're going to talk about storytelling in Demon the Descent. So it should definitely be a good episode. So, speaking of which, we had an episode not too long ago. So it's only been a couple weeks. What's everyone been doing gaming-wise?
Would you like to be the shovel again, Chris?
Yeah, I'd be the shovel. No, let's say I've played some more War Machine and Hordes recently, so that's been good fun. Wow, actually, no, let's think. I finished off painting those Batman miniatures, painting Convergence of Cyrus, there's pictures up of that stuff. Yeah, just looking forward to using my Scorn army, because that's, complete. And, yeah, my Signar army is kind of good fun. Lots of magical, shooty goodness, so it's been good to be playing some of that. Otherwise, I wouldn't say it's really hobby-wise, but we watched there was the season finale of Hannibal, and that was awesome.
Yeah, I did not see that coming. Any of that.
Yeah. It's interesting because obviously it looks like it had to be the way they ended it was the balance of, I'm sure, was the fact they didn't know whether they were going to have a third season. So, yeah, I mean, next season should be, I think, very different to the previous two because, things have moved on.
Just a smidge. But yeah, it's been great to watch. Otherwise, have I done anything else? Watched anything else? No, I've got some painting to do now. Some more painting. So obviously I've got my my Kickstarter reward put together and undercoated. So it's a nice figure. But they also, Profiteer Press brought out the shown off all the Kickstarter figures in their general release form, haven't they, Mike?
Have they?
They have.
Oh, okay.
So some of the sculpts are better than the Kickstarter ones. Some are worse. So,
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I actually wasn't impressed by a lot of the Kickstarter sculpts, except for the Signar one, which is the miniature I selected. So haven't painted that yet.
The same one I have.
All right, awesome. Yeah, I think the Retribution one, the elf sculpt, was also pretty good. From the Kickstarter ones, but I wasn't too impressed with the others. But yeah, no, that's definitely cool, and I'll have to go check those out pretty soon. So yeah, gaming-wise for me, I played a whole lot of Vampire: The Eternal Struggle, like a ton, and I guess we'll talk about that in the news segment. But otherwise, things have been kind of slow. Except that there is this Kickstarter going on, which it just keeps tantalizing me. Usually for Kickstarters, we don't really advertise Kickstarters for companies that are like just getting started or something like that. But Orbis Eridan, Reign of the Accursed, it's really just pretty interesting to me. It's sort of a fantasy setting with a World of Darkness Milo, if you will, in a
I know
sort
the
of
one you're talking about.
Elizabethan setting. But the company actually just started to talk about their rules and mechanics, which are not on the Kickstarter page, and it's pretty much my jam because just the core task resolution is 2d10, that sort of a system. And we all know that I'm a huge fan of the bell curves with dice, like the 2d6. And additionally, they're talking about some of the kind of story mechanics they have, which is that each character has their ambitions and their fears, which for a vampire-like character makes perfect sense. And also one of the core mechanics also is just scheming, which, is a pretty good idea for a vampire game,
But it's quite interesting because it's a role play game, and it's very kind of, I would say, I guess it's kind of the vampire answer to Unhallowed Metropolis. In the sense
I
that
could
it's
see that.
kind of some sort of, is it an alternative future or is it
No, it's a fantasy world. It's a fantasy world.
Okay. So in that respect, then it's also got a bit of Iron Kingdoms-esque to it because, of course, they've got their own setting and it's kind of evolved to this Victorian thing. But yeah, as a role-play game is concerned, I mean, it's also got miniatures to go with it. So, which is interesting because I wouldn't have expected it to be a miniatures-heavy game. But are they there as something that's integral to the game, or it's just something nice to have?
No. They're completely optional.
Okay.
So, yeah, they look pretty cool. So it's definitely another thing that people are pretty excited about with that one. So, yeah, maybe we'll put a link to that in the show notes. It's definitely something I'm paying close attention to right now, and we'll see what happens in the future. So, gaming-wise, Chigg, what's going on?
Well, we finally managed to play a session of Rocket Age last night.
Okay.
I think we got about halfway through the adventure that the guy wants to run for us. It was pretty fun. It was a different system. It wasn't nothing too complex. But yeah, it was a fun game, and we will play it again next week as well. So I enjoy it.
All right, sweet. And you picked up some paints for your Malifaux dudes. I know that much.
Yeah, it turns out that I live about 20 miles away from the Reaper Minis people, and they have an on-site store there next to their warehouse. So I stopped by yesterday and picked up a starter paint kit, so I can starter painting.
All right. I have no idea what Reaper paints are like in comparison to, Vallejo or Games Workshop or Private Press.
I think they're very similar to the Vallejo paints.
Yeah.
Which means that they're great for mixing with water.
Yes.
That doesn't mean much for Chigg, but
Oh, they'll be okay. They won't be too gloopy. Because Games Workshop paints are sometimes quite thick. But then there's so many GW paints, it can actually be a bit complicated, and
extremely.
I think they've changed their paint range at least 3 times since I stopped working for them, so I don't even know what they have these days.
They've changed it so many times, and yet the colors white and yellow are still impossible to paint.
Yeah.
But,
really? Good to know.
Yeah, that's...
Citadel White's is a load of crap. Private Press's, whatever it is, white, is really good. It's really good. Gives good coverage.
Yeah, absolutely. But anyway, enough with miniatures. Let's get back to the World of Darkness. So, hey, so this is pretty important. We have another contest, don't we?
Yes,
indeed we do.
Yeah, all right. So, everyone, get your pens and pencils out, because here's the next contest question. What do you think the next new World of Darkness game line will be? You can give us funny answers, insightful answers. If you don't know what answer it should be, just say Gruntar the Fruitang, and you've got an entry right there. The prize for this is actually going to be a copy of the God Machine Chronicle, signed by Black Hat Matt McFarland. And it's brought to you, sponsored by Peter Marshall, our Australian correspondent. So thank very much, Peter. And we definitely appreciate it. So Additionally, there might be some other prizes. We'll have to see about that. But at the very least, the top prize will be that copy of the God Machine Chronicle. So there you go. And we'll repeat the contest at the end of the episode. So definitely get your answers in quick, because we're probably going to announce a winner next time we're on the air.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, definitely just send us your ideas, Gruntar the Fruit Tang, or, what's another classic one people use? Yeti the Isolation. I think that's another one. And just send that over to darkerdaysradio@gmail.com. All right, I think we're good with that. So let's move on over to the news. All right, so as you may have figured out from our contest question, there's actually going to be a new World of Darkness game line coming out. We really don't know anything about it. We just kind of heard about it from Rich Thomas and the folks over at Onyx Path. But we do know that the game is going to be, quote, subversive, end quote. So, yeah, I mean, do you guys have any ideas?
No.
I mean,
Are
it's
we
pretty
sure
tough.
the quote was subversive? Was it not
Yes.
submersive? Is it perhaps merman?
I mean, it could be. I mean, that's as good a guess
my
as...
contest. That is my contest entry. It is Merman the Drowning.
What? Okay, we have to caveat the contest now. Darker Days hosts, and by hosts I mean the core hosts of us three, cannot enter into the contest. Sorry, guys. I know.
I take back my entry then.
Okay. Yeah,
Maybe
I mean,
it's mole men. That'd be cool. They're subversive.
no, crab people.
Crap.
You walk like crab and talk like people.
Yes, that could be it. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's tough because they've already done so much. I was just kind of brainstorming and sometimes people ask for gargoyles. I remember that being something that people requested with the old World of Darkness. So gargoyles, they already have golems in the form of the Prometheans. So that's pretty tough.
Yeah.
They got gargoyles twice in the old World of Darkness, though. At least twice.
They had them with the Tremere with those gargoyles, but they pop up again, do they?
Yeah, there's a changeling. The Kithbook Trolls has the ability to make your troll into basically a gargoyle with stone skin and all that fun jazz.
What?
Toss some wings on there. Have you never read the Kithbook Trolls? Come on, Mike.
Have I read
It was the first
any
one.
Changeling book? I've read one. No, Chigg, we were just talking about this the other week, and I was like, Chigg, it would make a really awesome Changeling game.
And I told you
Gargoyles,
it was in the book.
the Disney cartoon. And then you were like, then your reply
what I
was, yeah, I guess sort of. I guess maybe a little
did
bit.
not
Instead of just
know
being
I
like,
said-
yes, Mike, that is exactly how you should run Changeling. And then
Yeah,
if you had said that, I would be the biggest Changeling fan ever.
Yeah, after I kind of shot down the fact that the themes and tone are not at all the same, I said, okay, yeah, but if you go to the first Kith book, there's totally merits and flaws in there to let you do that.
The themes.
By that point, you'd stop reading my replies.
Gargoyles, though, in New World of Darkness do exist already because they're also in Vampire the Requiem, or at least they were in the Vampire the Requiem core book.
Oh.
As a kind of construct. I think it's the type of thing like, say, the Auto Draco would be able to create, or someone with Kruak. And yeah, Changeling, which one would it be? Either like one of the trolls or one of the elementals, for one of those seemings. Or it could be a Darkling seeming, because there's a type which have bat-like wings. And gargoyles can also be... Well, if you think about it, yeah, with Prometheans and the Pandorans are sort of are gargoyles. They can just be these bits of stone construct which come to life when a Promethean is nearby and they sense the Azoth and wish to feed upon it.
Yeah, that definitely works. Yeah.
So yeah, it's not going to be gargoyles.
Yeah,
I really don't know, because I mean, we've had, if you compare Old and New World of Darkness, pretty much everything from Old World of Darkness has been either revamped in some way or been re-examined. So obviously Geist kind of covers, Orpheus and Wraith quite happily. Because I don't think we're ever going to see a game where you actually play ghosts anytime soon. So, and we had Promethean. Promethean was quite different to anything that went before it in Classic World of Darkness. So, yeah, I don't know.
I mean, they could actually, I was thinking about this, what if they revisited one of the supernatural types that they've already covered? Perhaps doing a different form of werewolf or a different form of changeling. And that would allow them to come up with new ideas for something that they've already touched before. But I mean, if they already had some kind of cool ideas for another supernatural type, they could kind of go in a completely different direction. That's something they could definitely do, and I think they already kind of did do that in some ways with coming out with Changing Breeds, that book for the World of Darkness. Which, by the way, this is just a quick tangent here, but I was stuck in the doctor's office, and Matt, our werewolf correspondent, decided to entertain me. He'd send me all these pictures and stuff from the Changing Breeds source book, which apparently, before it went into editing, contained many pornographic furry pictures. So he felt the need to send me those as I was sitting there rather bored. So thanks, Matt. And
yeah, I've seen those ones due to Matt.
yeah, definitely.
Now, are we sure that these aren't just from his personal private stash?
Oh yeah, he could have just photoshopped it all in.
Yeah. He has that kind of time on his hands, I think, right?
Probably. But yeah, that was something interesting to learn, is that, the original version of that was definitely rated X.
It's a Black Dog supplement.
Was it as bad as the Cthulhu Tech book with their fairies?
Well, that just was in the description. That was just in the words.
Yeah.
And this was in the images. Yeah, definitely some funky stuff there. But, right. All right. We don't know what the New World of Darkness game is going to be. We'll have to definitely keep track of the little tidbits coming out from Onyx Path, and then we'll pass them on to you guys and try to give our thoughts. So,
have they said when they would make the announcement?
That'll be Gen Con, won't it?
Probably. That would make sense.
I am signed up for a what's new in the New World of Darkness, or what's coming in the New World of Darkness panel at Gen Con.
All right, have your Twitter ready, Chigg. But continuing on with the news, we also found out what the Geist the Sin Eater's historical setting is going to be in the Dark Eras sourcebook, which will be coming out this summer. And that's going to be actually set in New Zealand in the 1950s during its economic boom, and we'll cover some of the oppression of the indigenous people, and also the weak shroud that exists in the that island at that time. Definitely very different from what we expected, as we've seen from the other Dark Eras settings, such as Promethean being set in the Great Depression, United States, and then
Werewolf is New York, kind of 1970s.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. And I'm just trying to think.
Changeling is I want to say French Revolution.
Yep. And then Mage is the Alexander the Great time period, way back. Yeah. So that's definitely pretty neat. So
you're forgetting New Wave Requiem. Come on, the greatest of all decades in which to be a vampire.
That's not the one that's in this book. The vampire one in this book is set during the reign of Elizabeth I, and is everything to do with the secret societies and John Dee and everything to do with that.
Also, New Wave Requiem is basically pointing out how being a vampire in the 1980s actually kind of sucked. So,
no, it was great. Come on. It's the 80s. Everything was better when I was a child. Everything.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay,
that's how that works.
Yeah, that's true. So we know about all that good stuff with Geist, so it's going to be pretty interesting. Kind of cool to see the Pan-Australia area, the Pacific, get some coverage, so that's definitely pretty neat. And it's being written by Cam Banks, who is well known for his work over at Margaret Weiss Productions, especially a lot with Dragonlance back in the day. So definitely good to see him moving on to the world of darkness. And then also we have gotten some new books that we haven't really talked about. Drive Through RPG's new releases little tab seems to be a little messed up because it was not showing me the new books right up front. So these are just kind of the ones that I could think of off the top of my head that have come out recently. So, of course, just this week we had Werewolf's Wild West W20 expansion come out. And this is a source book that covers a lot of the core base material for Werewolf the Wild West, which was a entire game line back in the late 90s from White Wolf. And just kind of updates it and makes the basic information available for people that are fans of Werewolf 20th Anniversary Edition. It's pretty neat, and there was actually something I was reading in there, because I just kind of skipping through, and something caught my attention. And that was the, Chigg, you might have to correct me on the exact name, but it was the Society of the Enlightened Moon, I believe?
The Enlightened Society of the Weeping Moon.
Boom, there we go. And they had some pretty interesting stuff going on, including their own forms of magic, hedge magic, thaumaturgy, and a lot of interesting ideas for them to be either allies or even antagonists for the werewolves themselves. So that was just kind of a cool thing that I touched upon, which maybe we can discuss in the future.
Yeah, I want to go over this book. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've never really talked about Werewolf the Wild West in the past, so that might be a good thing to cover, and maybe we can get the aforementioned Matt back on the show.
He is in high demand. So
yeah, definitely. All right, and then in addition to that, we had Cursed Necropolis DC coming out just the week before, so definitely things have been pretty busy over there with the Onyx Path. This is the first city book for Mummy the Curse, and I haven't really read it that much, so I can't really make any comments at this time, unfortunately.
I've not looked at it yet, but so it was also, remember, a Kickstarter stretch goal reward. So it's the first one of the other books that everyone that pledged to Mummy will be getting hold of.
Mm-hmm. Yep, definitely. And then the week before that, Mortal Remains came out, and this is a Hunter the Vigil book, which covers... It's essentially the final enemy book that they're putting out. It covers changelings, mummies,
Prometheans, Geist,
demons, I think, as well.
As well, yeah.
So it covers all these different supernatural types, includes new compacts and conspiracies, and it's generally just been very well received. So that's definitely cool to see for Hunter the Vigil, which hasn't gotten any new material in 3 or 4 years at this point.
Mm-hmm. I've not looked at it yet either. I need to get a copy of it.
All right, excellent. So in addition to that, just kind of run through real quick, they've had some more fiction, Predator and Prey, the anthology for Hunters Hunted 2 for Vampire 20th. They've also released some ready-made characters for Demon and Blood and Smoke. So, you know, if you need ready-made characters, boom, there you go. And then additionally, something I just wanted to note was that White Wolf has actually re-released Big Eyes, Small Mouth 3rd edition in print on demand. And this is just interesting to note because they've been holding on to this Big Eyes, Small Mouth license, or actually I guess they kind of own it at this point, for quite some time, and they finally put it out print on demand. And this was a very hard to find book. On eBay, it was going for something like $150 just for the core book, so it's pretty pricey and pretty limited. So it's kind of cool that they're putting that back out.
Doesn't that game run on the TriStat system?
Yes, it does. Yep.
Yeah, I've looked at that in the past, because you can download the TriStat system for free, the entirety of it. Yeah, I have no ideas. Nothing else to say on it other than that, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I might check it out sometime in the future. I'm not sure if I'll specifically get that third edition, but I definitely like to pick up lots of different core rulebooks just to kind of compare and contrast and see what kind of cool mechanics I can grab. So that's definitely good to hear.
Ooh, sorry, I was just going through on the drive-through RPG new releases. There's at least one thing that's worth looking at as well. I've heard good things. I've not actually read it. Is there's a bundle on there right now for Night's Black Agents, which is a vampire conspiracies and everything by Pelgrane Press. So that might be worth people having a look at for further vampire ideas. Cool.
Yeah, definitely. Additionally, Peter Harlequin from wadnews.net is starting a new website, Breaking Bad Gaming. It's going to be a hardcore gaming website. Definitely pretty cool. We wish him all the luck. We'll put a link in the show notes so you can check it out. It's a bit of a work in progress right now because he's still getting everything set up. But he's going to be starting a new podcast, or I guess media cast, really, because it'll probably be mostly on Google Hangout. So definitely cool, and we'll see what happens with that in the future.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of pimping other shows, of course, we would be remiss if we did not mention Midnight Express. That's kind of our, I'm just going to say they're our sister show, run by both Adrian and Steve, and they've had 2 episodes that we didn't mention. Of course, we've got Midnight Express #1, which is covering Werewolf the Apocalypse, just covering the entire gamut of that very fine game. And then also Midnight Express #2, discussing Wraith the Oblivion. So I don't know if you guys checked them out. I definitely gave them both a pretty thorough listen, and those guys definitely know what they're talking about.
Oh, absolutely. I love their shows.
Mm-hmm. I need to listen to the Wraith one, because I think that would be... Like, they go through everything, so it's worth listening to for that.
Yeah, it was a very thorough, in-depth look at Wraith. So I appreciated it as someone who isn't really a Wraith player. So.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll be pretty excited to check out Midnight Express episode #3. And finally in the news, a little bit of Darker Days news here. Chigg, you're going to Gen Con.
I am going to Gen Con for the 5th year and press for the first time.
That's right. So you're going to be all professional there in your suit, of course,
interviewing
all these very fine people, handing out your business card, and just being the most professional guy around, right?
Nothing but the best to represent Darker Days.
That's right. All business, all the time. All right, excellent. So, what are you going to be checking out there? What kind of panels or games do you expect to be attending?
Well, like I said, I have already signed up for the 2 Onyx Path panels. They have 2 panels on Saturday, What's Up with the New World of Darkness and What's Up with the Classic World of Darkness, so I'll be going to both of those. Speaking of other podcasts, Ken and Robin Talk About Stuff are going to be recording a live episode, so I'm going to go sit in on that and see how that works.
Nice.
Signed up for a couple of different games that I've never heard of before and just wanted to try. Alderac is releasing Doomtown, which is we can't call it it's a deck building game, but they can't use the usual non-collectible card gaming term for it because that's copyrighted by someone else, but it's a deck building game.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely pretty cool. If 2013 was the year of Shadowrun, with the 5th edition coming out and all this other new material and really breathing new life into that game, I'm kind of thinking that Deadlands is really making a comeback this year, not only with the card game coming out. Savage Worlds has been doing very well for a while, but now there's confirmation that there's actually going to be a Deadlands TV show, of all things. So that's going to be definitely something to check out.
Well, hopefully it's as good as Briscoe County Jr. was for Deadlands.
Oh, yeah, damn straight. I mean, it's interesting. I'm just kind of thinking right now, what good gaming TV or movies have we had? Kindred the Embraced is not terrible. It's just not very good.
Well, I would say, it was hampered by a few things. But if you look at when it came out, it was certainly better than many of its contemporaries at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. But then, like, you have the D&D movies, which are awful. Well, the first one's a train wreck, but I guess
kind of goes downhill after those.
The other two were kind of like watchable in a really campy, funny sort of way.
Well, there's the Dark Dungeons.
I was going to say,
out. I don't know if that counts as gaming, but it's gaming related.
It is gaming related.
Yeah,
the trailer looks great. So
yeah, absolutely. So that could be good. I mean, yeah, for like gamer parody movies, I mean, Gamers 1's pretty awful, and the Gamers 2, when you go back and watch it now, is like not really that great. Gamers 3 is kind of cool, I guess, but it's all about collectible card games anyway, so it might not be up the alley of all of our listeners here, but yeah, that one's kind of okay. But yeah, for the actual like official gaming movies or whatever, usually it's not very good. I guess the D&D cartoon in the 80s was kind of okay.
No, you're looking at that through nostalgia glasses.
Yes.
It is horrible. There are no redeeming features about the D&D cartoon.
Okay, fine, whatever, man. Gosh.
Sorry, I hate to be the one to burst your cartoon bubble there.
All
but
right. Well, fine, whatever. Let's just move on, okay? Just move on. Yeah, and additionally for conventions, I'm going to Origins in 2 weeks for the first time ever. That's going to be pretty sweet. I made it to the Vampire the Eternal Struggle Continental Championship. So I'm going to go to that and probably get my ass handed to me. But it should be pretty cool to check out that convention anyway.
Cool.
Sounds super fun.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm pretty much just going to be playing Vampire the entire time. Vampire the Eternal Struggle. Maybe some Battlestar Galactica, because that seems to be pretty popular with that whole crew, that whole community, really. So that's definitely going to be good. But finally, just to let Chris jump in here. You going to Essen this year?
I will mostly go to Spiel again because it's for Europe, I guess it is the largest European gaming convention. It is predominantly board games and CCGs being shown. There's no real tournament stuff going on, I don't think. But I imagine that given the amount of Kickstarter stuff that has gone on in the last year, there'll be even more minis there. RPGs are barely represented. Normally you'll have I think the biggest people there for RPGs is say Ulysses Games, who do all the German translation for things like Iron Kingdoms and all the Private Press stuff. I think they also translate BattleTech and everything to do with that. And they also hold the IP for the Dark Eye, which is a German D&D like kind of RPG.
Yep, I've heard of that one.
Yeah,
it had one English.
Yeah,
one English release, which didn't do so well.
Yeah, they also have some other RPG stuff there, but it's mainly going to be miniature stuff there. So I'm sure Mantic will be there, and Hawk Games, and a few others. And again, it'd be nice if actually people from Private Press can make it over, but it's Europe, and Games Workshop only ever takes Forge World there. So less said about Games Workshop this week than
Wait,
better.
That's right. Actually, you know what? Just another side tangent here.
They released...
So I think yesterday, or maybe 2 days ago. Yep, 2 days ago they released Warhammer 40K 7th edition. That's good, right? It's gonna have some improvements, right? The real problem is that Warhammer 40K 6th edition came out less than 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Good work, Games Workshop. Really making it obvious that you care about your gamers and do good with your rules and all that.
Well, 7th edition is not your father's Warhammer. It's your slightly older brother's.
It's yeah. I mean, they announced they were putting things that they've reintroduced a proper psychic phase, from what I've read. So that kind of pushes the game back to being more like. Actually, it makes it more similar to 40K second edition, which is where I started with it. So that's like back in 1990. That came out in 1992, second edition, I think. Yeah. Oh, it's just they've got a whole load of things. They've got this unbound armies that you can do. So normally you have a force organization chart, so you're limited on what you can take. Now they've got unbound, which means you can take what you like. So there's two different play styles. Obviously, unbound means you can take completely cheesy armies or play proper themes. But really, a new edition of the game out 2 years after the previous one. And we'll have to keep in mind that 3 or 4 months ago, GW stock dropped by 25%. And in the next coming weeks, they will have their quarterly financials out. And notice that they lost a whole load of income due to no longer THQ folding. So all their computer games and royalties from that is just gone. And to add to that is that people who pick through the numbers, Games Workshop are still maintaining their profits while selling less. So read into that what you want. And it's now, however much, Kickstarter stuff, you've got Mantic, which basically say, here are our rules, use whichever miniatures you like. Or you've got Private Press, that's bringing out more and more stuff. And you've got, Kingdom Death and all these other new war games coming out, which are moving into these areas. It's just, yeah. I still think the writing is on the wall for them, unless they do something drastic.
Yeah. Well, we've been saying that for a long time now, so
it's been said for a long time.
They're going to keep holding on probably for a couple years, but things are not looking good over there. But anyway, back to the World of Darkness, everyone. Back to the World of Darkness. Okay, all right. I think that's just about it for the recent World of Darkness, Onyx Path, and Darker Days Radio news. So let's move on over to the classic World of Darkness.
Classic World of Darkness.
So, Chigg, we got a bunch of interesting questions regarding Changeling from Tom Plasso, one of our listeners and distinguished fans of the World of Darkness. And when I'm saying we got some questions, I mean we got like 20. So I think it'll be good for us to, kind of sit back, answer a couple of them, and, see what kind of insight, Chigg, you can give to the game of Changeling the Dreaming. But I think before we get started with all the questions, Changeling's a game that has a lot of room for interpretation, doesn't it?
Yeah, more than probably any other classic World of Darkness game. It changed developers and changed focus and changed everything a couple of times. So it's not really the most coherent rule set in the classic World of Darkness, but I enjoy the setting. It's my favorite game, so maybe I'm just a glutton for punishment, but so yeah, we have some rules questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess I'll, Chigg, I will pose the questions to you, and you can answer them. So first question. Concerning the treasure's background, I have a player who has 3 dots in treasure, a magical hammer. It possesses the gimmicks cantrip, which is a 1-dot effect, but the treasure is 3 dots. How do you work this out? Do the 3 dots of the treasure act as a substitute for the character's personal legerdemain art die pool? You're gonna have to jump in here and explain half of the stuff for the rest of our listeners. Do treasures have built-in realms that are limited to effect, or can they affect nothing without the wielder's personal realm die pools? Does the player have to spend glamour to use his treasure, or can he use this cantrip for free as is contained within the treasure? I think that's a good place to stop because, wow, that's a
lot
question.
of lot of stuff bundled up in there. Yes, you are correct. To answer the first question, the easiest question here, player has a 3-dot treasure that contains a 1-dot effect. Treasure, treasure is one of the stuff backgrounds in Changeling the Dreaming. It's like Wonder for Mage, or what are they? Starts with a Fetish for Werewolf. It's one of the magical things that you can own backgrounds. There's a couple of those in Changeling for various reasons. But anyway, like most other World of Darkness games, it's a 1-dot for 1-dot of effect. So to answer the first question, if you have a 3-dot treasure that has a 1-dot effect, then it is in fact a 1-dot treasure. It is in fact the Gimmicks magical treasure is one of the examples for the 1-dot treasure in the core book. Now, to move on. Do the 3 dots of the treasure act as a substitute for the character's personal ledger domain art die pool? Yes, if you have a treasure that can do something that you can't do because you don't have that magical power, then your treasure still is able to do it regardless of whether you personally are able to do it or not. That's one of the reasons to buy a treasure.
What's a ledger domain art?
Ledger domain is one of the 6 arts presented in the Changing the Dreaming core book. It is supposed to be sleight of hand and illusion. It's kind of like the stage magic art. Gimmicks, the first dot of it, which is the question here, is lets you move things telekinetically. Okay. The example in the core book that I mentioned earlier for the Gimmicks thing is a horseshoe magnet that lets you move things telekinetically.
Okay, cool. Well, Chigg, that's a pretty good answer so far, but on page 149 of the 2nd edition core rulebook, under the treasure's background, it says, since treasures are invested with glamour, they have the effect of enchanting mortals who touch them. Is this effect free, or does the owner of the treasure still have to spend glamour to enchant a mortal?
Nope, it's completely free.
Oh,
says so right there on page 149. If Johnny Mortal picks up Excalibur, which is a super mega powerful treasure sword, then he is enchanted for as long as he has that in his hand. He can see changelings, he can see chimera, he can see all kinds of stuff from the Dreaming. He can interact with the Dreaming. He can be affected by arts that only affect those who are enchanted. He is enchanted as long as he has whatever treasure it is on him. Now, because treasures are so rare and so difficult to create, as we will get to later, I'm sure, this is kind of a poor use of treasures. Like I said, if you have access to Excalibur and you have the ability to enchant somebody by putting your own glamour, your own power source into a cookie and feeding it to them, then letting them hold on to Excalibur is kind of a waste of having access to Excalibur.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, if that's how you want to use your treasures, I'm not going to stop you.
Right on. But Chigg, what's the primary difference between a chimerical item and a treasure?
Well, a chimerical item, which is the other magical stuff background in Changeling, is something that has no real-world counterpart. So you can't give it to somebody who isn't enchanted is naturally able to see changelings and chimera and spirit world stuff. Is not able to be aware of its existence unless they are enchanted. A treasure has a real world counterpart. So the aforementioned hammer is a really real hammer that anybody could pick up. If it was a chimeric hammer, then only a changeling or somebody who can see chimera could pick that up.
All right, let's move on to the next one.
Alrighty.
Next question. Do you have a revision that you prefer for how arts and realms work? Chigg, before we even get started with this question, could you quickly explain arts and realms and just try to give us a feeling for the different powers and requirements that are included in Changeling the Dreaming?
I will do my best. Changeling powers are divided into 2 different sections, and it's fairly simple to comprehend, but it's fairly difficult to actually play. Changeling have arts, which is what you can do, and they have realms, which is what you can do it to. So, for instance, there is the Changeling art that we've already mentioned before of Legerdemain, and it has within it 5 powers, because White Wolf loves 5s. It has the power of gimmicks, which lets you maneuver things telekinetically. We went over that. It has the power of ensnare, which lets you use telekinesis better, and also lets you have whatever's lying around grab on to somebody. Thus the name ensnare. You can tie people down, or things, or whatever. It has effigy, which is the 3rd dot power, which creates a duplicate of whatever you're affecting. It has mooch, which lets you teleport things from one place to another. And finally, it has the 5th dot power, Phantom Shadows, which creates perfect copies of something. Now, I keep saying of something because what it makes a copy of or what you're moving around depends on what realm you combine with that art. There are 6 realms. Well, there are 4 realms, and then there are 2 realms that are almost always modifiers, just to make it that much more entertaining. The 4 primary realms are actor, which are people. There's nature, which is things. I take that back. Nature is natural things. Prop is created things. Finally, fae is creatures of the dreaming, whether that's changelings or nobles or Fomorians or whatever. Fae affects it if it is a creature of the dreaming. Now, there are 2 additional realms that, like I said, are almost always modifiers. You can almost never affect just seen, because seen modifies it to affect multiple of the items within an area. You with me so far?
Yep.
Let's use gimmicks, our favorite example art. Gimmicks is low-level telekinesis, okay? It lets you move, the 1st dot lets you move things around that are up to about 25 pounds. So let's say that you want to, instead of moving that one empty trash can into that corner, you want to move all the empty trash cans into the corner. Well, that would be prop, to use something that's been created, and it would use seen, because it's more than one of them in an area. Now, there's also time, which is the final realm. That is almost always used just to delay something. So if you want to move all those trash cans into the corner in an hour, well, then you have to add time to your scene and prop. And you have to have every single realm if you want to affect something in that realm. So if you want to delay your cantrip from going off and you don't have time, too bad. If you want to use hopscotch to push 3 mortals out of the way and you only have actor but no scene, 2 of those mortals are not going to be pushed out of the way. It's a very, very expensive magic system.
Interesting. Okay. But to move on to the actual question. Okay. Many of the arts seem very limited in effect and duration. And when you add in the division between Fae and Autumn World affecting realms, it seems that it can take a great deal of time and experience to be able to get more use out of your arts. In particular, in the Autumn World, which is the real mortal world, you need a different realm to affect different objects. But in the dreaming, one realm, Fae, covers everything. It almost seems like in the dreaming, the Fae realm is supposed to be coupled with the Autumn realm in order to affect whatever you target.
It almost does seem like that, but no. As the rules as written state that if you have Fae, then you can affect whatever it is from the dreaming. Whether that's what was intended or not, we may never know, but that is definitely how they wrote it down. I agree with you that, yes, it is very expensive to affect multiple things. It is very difficult to become a master changeling sorcerer. Them's kind of the breaks of playing a dying breed in a world that hates you, I guess. Now, there are ways around this. In canon, you can figure out when you're doing character creation what kind of effects you want to be able to do, and you can say, well, I want to be able to make all of the mortals in the area get thrown safely out of the way of that speeding bus. So you buy actor and you buy scene. This is very metagamey, obviously, as you're doing it out of character when you make your point selection. So maybe you want to do that, maybe you don't. It's entirely up to you. I do take issue with you saying that the powers are kind of weak and limited. It depends entirely on how creative you can be with the power and how creative your storyteller will allow you to be with the power. There are some that are obviously more useful in more situations than others. But yeah, you can get up to some really fun and exciting stuff. My favorite example of this is Portal Passage, which is from the Wayfair art, and it lets you it basically creates an opening in whatever you want to get through up to 10 feet. If you have Fae, and there is a group of troll linebackers bearing down on you, you cast Portal Passage, and you just jump right through those guys like they aren't there. You become the Changeling Kitty Pride. Good for you.
Nice.
That is the official in-game answer. There are other ways around this, and the one that I think is probably the easiest is to just go out and buy the Mage Supplement Sorcerer, because it has a whole bunch of sorcerer paths that you can learn instead of the arts. They're cheaper. They're more limited in scope because they're path magic, and that's just how path magic is. It does one thing and it does it well. And personally, I've been telling myself for a while that I need to sit down with a copy of Demon the Fallen and just figure out how their lore system works and steal it for Changeling the Dreaming. And that's a project that I may or may never actually get to. So if we do, I will let you guys know.
All right. Awesome. Well, let's talk about equipment again. All right. Crafting and, forging chimera. So what's kind of the difference between chimerical material and dream stuff? Dream stuff is only needed to create treasures, but why not chimerical items? If a knocker or a boggin makes a chimerical action figure toy for a young changeling, that would be a chimerical item requiring no dream stuff. And be fairly simple to create, right?
One would think. One of the supplements, one of the later supplements, included some rules on how to make treasures and how to make chimera that are just awful. And I would never, ever use those rules. Like you say in your question here, yeah, it's dumb to require you if you want to make a if you have a chimerical tree and you want to make a chimerical mop handle, just use your chimeric knife to whittle the tree branch down. You don't need to go out onto a super ridiculous quest into the dreaming and get some dragon's bane and some mermaid's tears and this and that and the other to do something that your crafting kith should just be able to do, or anybody who has a chimeric knife, a couple of dots in craft, and access to a chimeric tree should be able to do. Now, if you're going to do something ridiculous like try to create a treasure, then yeah, maybe you want to use those rules where you have to go on a super long quest and get dream stuff, which is just random, basically, items from the dreaming to make these insanely powerful real-world items that have super inherent effects. But yes, if you're just going to make just an everyday chimeric item like a sword or a suit of armor or books or ink or whatever, and just use your craft skills. Just do it. That's what craft skills are for.
Yep, no, that definitely makes sense. Definitely keep it simple. Cool. So, all right, next up, Dreams and Nightmares has some rules for conjunction or harvest time. So time works differently in the dreaming, but let's say that you're in an autumn world in a freehold on October 30th, and you decide to use a trod to find a chimerical material in the dreaming to build something. Maybe it takes you a few days to quest for that material to make your sweet hammer. How can you predictably arrive somewhere in the dreaming on the 31st of October in time to reap the benefits of the rule of conjunction? So I think we have to kind of explain what the rule of conjunction actually is in the first place.
The rule of conjunction, like most of the rules and concepts that they came out with for Dreams and Nightmares, is pretty awful, and it's not something. I'm just calling it like I see it, and it's not something that I would use. It's basically a day of power where you can go out because the planets align. It's October 31st. It's Halloween. It's a day of power, so everything is better that day. I wouldn't use these rules for anything. I don't see why they would come up in a regular Changeling game. It's something that takes place in the autumn world. You shouldn't be running off to the dreaming to do much of anything. And time in the dreaming moves at the speed of plot. So if you leave the day before, you need to get somewhere, and it's going to take you 3 days of questing and fighting ogres and dragons and trees that throw their apples at you to get there, then the storyteller can say, well, hey, you still made it because it's the dreaming, and time works differently here. Or you can get there in 10 minutes, and the storyteller can say, nah, I don't want you guys to have that. So it took you actually 6 weeks to get here, real world time. It's kind of dumb. Like I said, like most of Dreams and Nightmares, it's kind of dumb. So just ignore that and pretend it never happened.
Yeah, just as a kind of fun side fact, Wraith the Oblivion does have rules for particular days like Halloween or perhaps like the anniversary of your death and stuff like that. The shroud level actually will lower in areas, so it's a lot easier for wraiths to affect things in the mortal world. So it definitely makes sense there for that game. But I do understand that having events in the autumn world affect or have or cause you to want to go into the dreaming and do things in the dreaming seems like it's a little silly overall and generally inefficient to the story.
Well, yes and no. Changelings are trying to avoid winter. We're currently living in the autumn world. It's all about the change of the seasons, which, October 31st, Samhain is kind of ties into that. It's when the summer court steps down traditionally and the winter court takes over. So, I mean, I can kind of see where the authors were coming from with this. But the rule system that they put down, it's just not good.
All right, cool. All right, Chigg. Let's dive back into these. So, Dreams and Nightmares mentions tempering a treasure when making it and says that glamour must be invested, but doesn't make it clear how and how much glamour needs to be invested. What do you think?
This is another one of those dreams and nightmares rules. Dreams and Nightmares, again, not a very good book. I think maybe that the authors were waiting for the full rules to come out in the Book of Glamour, which, as every Changeling fan knows, never actually saw the light of day. It was supposed to have a revised Arts and Realms system, a one-stop shopping for your chimeric and treasures rules needs, but it never actually, I'm not sure if writing ever finished on it, or if they just didn't publish what they had for some reason. But yeah, more Dreams and Nightmares issues that we can just ignore because it's not a good book.
Okay, perfect. Moving on. So how do you handle the effects of the mist on dreamers? It seems really difficult for changelings to find and cultivate dreamers, and eventually enchant them and bring them into the dreaming for a little inspiration. If they actually go comatose when they're brought back out, that will require a great deal of looking after and would be very difficult to explain in a fairly reality-based game. A significant increase in mysterious coma victims would also attract hunters to the area, wouldn't it? How do you suggest handling the mists in a game where mortals and dreamers play a big role?
That's a really interesting question and not one that I've ever really seen put forward before. The short answer is you should never, ever, 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 ever even attempt to bring a person into the dreaming, whether they're enchanted or not. It's not a environment that is conducive to mortals. It's also against the Eshiat, which is the Changeling laws. They have the right to dream, which says that you will never reveal yourself or the dreaming to mortals because they are banal and will, whether they want to or not, will destroy us. It's also just a really bad idea to bring anything banal into the dreaming. It's one of the story lines is that the She were ejected from the dreaming and they cannot get back to Arcadia, and no one's really sure why. One of the theories is that the mortal souls that the She have been displacing and sending back to Arcadia, because those mortal souls they contain banality. They are what is triggering winter and what's making it impossible for any changeling to get back, because there is now banality in the heart of the dreaming, which is the source of all glamour, or at least the home of all glamour. So yeah, bringing anything with even a trace amount of banality into the dreaming, horrible, horrible idea. Not good for the dreaming, not good for the dreamer. Now, to get back to your question here, how do you muse someone? For those who aren't changeling players, musing is one of the ways in which a changeling, it's the best way, according to the good guys, in changeling, in which you can get glamour from somebody who produces glamour. And basically, you inspire them in some way, some shape, some form. Whether it's just an attaboy and a pat on the back and a, hey, yeah, you should really pursue your poetry instead of your soul-crushing job. Or whether it's becoming a literal patron of the arts and funding local artists to do whatever it is that they do. So yeah, you shouldn't be enchanting your dreamers to try to get more glamour out of them. That's very close to ravaging when you think about it, which is the quick and dirty method of getting glamour out of somebody, where you just terrify them and scare it out of them by giving them a glimpse of chimeric reality.
All right, sweet. So that's it for all the questions. Chris, do you have any comments or anything?
I really can't comment on any of this whatsoever.
Whoosh, right over the head.
Yeah.
Yeah, Changeling's definitely a pretty complex game, but as we mentioned very early on, there's a lot of room for interpretation and that sort of thing, just simply because of how it was written and the whole effects of the dreaming world. So it's definitely good to...
The answers I gave are just my answers, and they are in no way official answers. So take everything that you heard here with a grain of salt.
But just to inject a little horror into this segment, Chigg, I looked over at my bookshelf, and what's the only Changeling book I have right here?
I'm going to go ahead and guess, based on the fact that they made 1 billion of them and they sold them for about a nickel each, that it is Freeholds and Hidden Glens.
No, it's Dreams and Nightmares.
Oh,
Jeez, man. Gosh.
Yeah, not the finest Changeling book.
Nope. And with that, let's move on over to The Secret Frequency.
It's under the stairs. I want my mom.
During the Vietnam War, U.S. strategists had a genius psychological warfare idea. You see, the Vietnamese believe in the wandering soul, a superstition where the dead must be buried in their homeland, or their soul will wander aimlessly in pain and suffering. These souls can be communicated with on the anniversary of their death, but only near where they died. Such was the genesis of Operation Wandering Soul. U.S. engineers recorded eerie wailing sounds to be played in the jungle. These recordings begged Vietnamese soldiers to defect or desert, to run home, or suffer the same fate. The recordings, such as the infamous Ghost Tape 10, were distributed to special PSYOP teams, who played them during their missions.
Còn trong ngày các bạn gặp được người thân yêu của các bạn đừng nghĩ nữa. Trở về đi các bạn. Muốn mau đi, nhất quyết mau đi, lìa bỏ đi các bạn. Nếu không thể tránh được cái chết cảm thương như tôi. Trở về đi các bạn ơi, nếu không thì quá muộn rồi, quá trễ rồi. Trở về đi, về đi các bạn. Về đi.
Operation Wandering Soul met with mixed results. One success came after planting rumors of tiger attacks in a local village, and then playing the ghost tape along with tiger roars. 150 Viet Cong fled the mountain because of a 2-man team with a loudspeaker. Another operation, which played the sounds from a helicopter, did not faze the enemy troops at all, and they in fact just started shooting at the helicopter. Now, in the world of darkness, Operation Wandering Soul has a lot of potential. Of course, we all realize that the recordings could truly be the Restless Dead. That's an easy conclusion to make. But what's interesting to consider is why and how. Why is the US government using real spirits in these operations? And how are they doing it? In Wraith the Oblivion, ghosts exist outside our world in the parallel Shadowlands. Crossing and affecting the shroud between worlds is actually pretty difficult in the 1970s, before the 6th Great Maelstrom occurs. One possibility is that the ghost tapes actually contain a fetter, an object that binds a wraith to the Skinlands. This fetter, as well as a ritual to conjure the wraith in the Skinlands, will cause a wraith to follow the infantry unit on their mission, moaning in agony the entire way. Of course, that first night, the technician tries to shut off the sound, and he can't. Then he realizes the sound doesn't even come from the speaker at all. Soul-forged items are also notorious for projecting soft moans of the souls they once were. perhaps Necronauts were able to retrieve soul-forged oboli and other items to bring back to the real world. What if a veteran brings back said oboli with him after the war, and what if a wraith comes looking for his soul-forged friend? Operation Wandering Soul may represent something even more devious. Perhaps the ghost tapes are actually the voices of specters, the wraith agents of oblivion, which will drive off wraiths, which may be watching over friends and family amongst the Viet Cong. Of course, the ghost tapes might not be ghosts at all. Strix, shrieks, and Bastet moans, any number of suffering sounds could disturb the supernatural creatures inhabiting a war zone. The idea of Operation Wandering Soul may even be useful to a void engineer cleaning crew. Just playing the sounds from the spirit world may be enough to confuse or disturb the changing breeds or bygones that they are hunting down. And the concept of a wandering soul is also a wonderful foil for Prometheans. Being forced to wander the land in search of their own humanity is kind of what Prometheans do. And helping lay a wandering soul to rest could be an interesting milestone for the created. And it's also great because it will provide a long-term NPC unaffected by the disquiet that the Prometheans can actually interact with. So, what do you guys think of the Wandering Soul?
I think it sounds really creepy.
Yep.
First idea is that this is all part of a infrastructure for the God Machine. Given the proximity of Vietnam to Cambodia and such a temple, such as the famous Angkor Wat temples, which are renowned for apparently having occult meaning within them, because of like the structure of the temples have occult numerology built into it, and they make reference to the churning of the Milky Sea, which is where you have demons and angels on either side tugging and pulling at this pillar which churns the Milky Sea, which apparently is a reference to the precessional cycle of the Earth and to the Milky Way, and how the alignment of the stars changes over, I think it's a 12,700 year cycle, something like that. So, what if this is all just a infrastructure of the God Machine? So it's the cover infrastructure is obviously the war itself, or part of the war. And then this next part of the infrastructure that it then has in place is the recordings of the dead, which it are actually the recordings of the dead, however it's achieved that. And the aim then for the occult matrix that it's bringing together is to create a death resonance with some temple. I'm not going to say Angkor Wat, there could be other ones nearby that are lost in the jungles. I mean, it's just as bad as South America in that sense. With some sort of temple there to bring into the world, either to cause monumental death so that it can open a gate into the underworld and recover some artifact for another task that it has, or to awaken some angel, or or whatever else the God Machine needs to do to harvest souls or whatever, because you have all these occult matrices that the God Machine enables, but what it's getting out at the end may be less well known. The infrastructures in between are the things that demons are more likely able to understand what the output is, so that they can interfere with the final occult matrix that's being brought about. So that's one idea.
Totally. Chigg, you got something?
My first idea was, or my first thoughts rather, were about the laugh tracks that you hear on sitcoms. They do something kind of similar. They were all recorded just years and years and years and decades ago. So a lot of the voices that you hear laughing are, by now, they've passed away. So it's kind of the opposite direction of where this is going, in that this is meant to freak people out, whereas the laugh tracks are kind of meant to get people into the happy, laughy mood. But that's That's where my mind immediately went.
Interesting. You know, one thing you could do with these recordings is take that sort of J-horror theme of not really of there being some requirement or some ritual that you just don't even know about. You know, for example, maybe you have to watch these sitcoms to keep something away. Maybe these soldiers have to actually be playing these moaning sounds in the jungle to, let's say, confuse the local angels and infrastructure of the god machine by playing these sounds, because angels do affect the spirit realm in the New World of Darkness. It distracts them from the mortals who are actually doing whatever they need to, whatever sort of occult/military operation they have going on. So that's another kind of cool thing you could play around with this one.
Yeah, what works into that is, so one of the God Machine cults is the Deva Corporation, and one of the things they interact with is something known as the Apocalypse Clock, which essentially informs them of when an apocalypse is about to occur in the World of Darkness, and informs them of how they go about stopping that. So normally the ways of stopping this is there's a specific person or persons that must die, and they must die in a specific way. So what if this specific way of causing death was using these recordings? So you create this absolute fear of death, and as they then flee, they're gunned down by or incinerated by napalm, and that is something that has prevented the apocalypse as determined by the Apocalypse Clock.
That's a fun idea.
Let's think. Is there anything from... it could have been... You could imagine it's something, maybe a tactic used way back when by something like the New World Order in their fight against some form of reality deviant that was invading the world during the Vietnam War. Maybe they use a similar tactic in modern wars across the world, as they have to use these screeches to prevent something crossing over. That would be kind of cool. That would be really neat. I'm trying to think of some other ones. I think for werewolf, maybe less so. Promethean, I'm just trying to think of something for Promethean. Nothing's coming to mind.
I don't know. I mean, I like the idea that maybe Prometheans could get along with ghosts somewhat. I mean, I know in the New World of Darkness that ghosts are more these sort of rote operations, kind of repeating things that they've done in the past before their death many times. Which actually, now that I think about it, means they play in pretty well with the God Machine, don't they?
Yeah,
just a bit.
Interesting. But if you do kind of inject a bit more humanity into them, they could make very interesting NPCs, simply because they're unaffected by the disquiet, and they don't care about wasteland effects at all because it doesn't affect them. Well, maybe it does. I mean, you never know. You could actually include it that Prometheans do affect the spirit realm quite a bit, which would be a great crossover with werewolf. Dangerous crossover.
Imagine that maybe also, I mean, that type of action of using sounds is maybe something that the some sort of hunter group maybe makes use of as a tactic. So it uses the screams of the dead, of the ghosts of the victims of, say, of a particular monster in order to harass it.
Or perhaps that hunter cell always records the death of their victims.
Yeah,
That's
that would be great. So it becomes a ever-growing dirge. Or going down the mage route, and again taking inspiration from our favourite antagonist, the Prince of a Thousand Leaves. What if it is part of numerous projects of sound, and are all part of some weird occult physics, where some entity is trying to essentially create to bring its voice into being. So as in, the first word of God created the universe, that kind of thing. Or maybe this God is wanting to come into existence, and it needs each of these sounds to be played at the right place at the right time. And so this one is with these, the moans of the dead. Somewhere else it may be a particular song, maybe a piece by the Missing Song of Vivaldi, and all of these are all parts of a larger sound. So the loop and all these other random sound things, and they're all just the entire Gestalt soundscape is actually the embodiment of this entity.
The cries of dying mortals are the only thing that can drown out the choir of the God Machine's angels.
I like that.
Whoa. So, on to the New World of Darkness?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, perfect.
World of Darkness 2.0.
All right, Chris. Talking about the God Machine quite a bit, so let's move on to Demon.
Yes, we talked quite a bit about Demon when we had Matt on, so I think we can quickly. Do we want to do a quick? How do we want to attack this? Because I don't think we need to do as much of an overview of the entire game as such. I think what we're looking at here is maybe more insight that we now have from this book into the types of characters you can run, the type of powers that are there, the type of interesting mechanics, and how we would run this game. Where to begin? So Demon the Descent, obviously you are playing you're playing demons which were once angels of the God Machine. Angels of the God Machine are agents of the God Machine. They enact its will on Earth. They are attached to it. They're not completely omnipotent. The angels are very, I would say, efficiently built. They're built for a specific purpose. And so that can sometimes hamper them to the point that it causes them to fall and become a demon. Or they follow their goal, their programming so single-mindedly that they become so focused on a certain person, a certain place, a certain thing, that they also fall. And so there's numerous ways that a demon can come into being, and they fall into... the demons themselves then are classified based upon the type of angel they used to be. So you have angels which are the destroyers. The demons are called destroyers because as angels their purpose was simply to kill and destroy certain things. Guardians, which is they obviously protect something, and so they obviously can see how that works with the idea of infrastructures, that you have to destroy things to make way for infrastructures, or you've got to protect certain infrastructures, certain people, mortals that are able to enable these infrastructures. Messengers obviously interact with mortals and push them and nudge them to do certain things for the God Machine. You then have psychopomps, who are more like they're the ones that apparently gather the raw material, so they're really involved in enabling the redirection of things, whether it's electricity, power, water, other raw materials, or people, so that infrastructures can come into play. And then your demons fall into generally one of four of genders, which are inquisitors, that they wish to know more about the God Machine so that they can flee it and hide better. Integrators, that want to know more about the God Machine so that they can understand why they fell, and then potentially understand how they can reinsert themselves into the God Machine, but, and here's the important thing, still retain their individuality. So they also kind of want to rework the God Machine so it does things better. You then have the saboteurs, who are just so hateful of the God Machine, they'll just want to stop all of its infrastructures and remove the God Machine once and for all. And tempters, who are essentially, they're demons that are very much engrossed in their new mortal state, and also try and tempt other angels into enjoying and reveling in the mortal realm. And obviously, playing a demon becoming a demon is a monumental event. As a demon as the angel falls, they are cut off from the God Machine, and all of this cosmic power is focused into a single entity. This entity being the cover that they had at that moment. And so obviously they have a mask, which is the mortal kind of face that they have of the world based upon that first cover they have. They may also have a number of other covers they were using that they have access to. And covers then is maybe the one place I think, Mike, we can jump in and talk about the mechanics on, because covers are linked to the morality stat within Demon the Descent.
Yep, it is.
Yeah. So obviously the morality stat in Demon the Descent is, sorry, I can't remember off the top of my head because I'm flicking through other things. It's called it's called integrity.
Yep.
And that essentially relates to how well the demon is able to hide itself from the God Machine. So higher integrity is better. Different covers have different integrity. So that then you can compare to vampire. So in vampire, humanity, I think, parallels integrity quite well, because it's about how well do you disguise yourself as a human. But whereas a vampire only has just the one humanity, a demon has multiple integrities to make use of. Then, obviously related to these, their integrity is linked to each of their covers, and based upon their premium, which is basically their power stat, much like blood potency, they can command a number of covers. Some of these covers are fully fledged because they have stolen them from mortals by performing some sort of pact. Other ones are patch jobs from smaller pacts where they haven't completely deleted someone from existence, and they've done this patch job of a cover by taking someone's boyfriend from one place, someone's job from another, someone's poverty, someone's all these other things. They're all just put together to give this identity that they can make use of. And of course, if a demon wishes to, they can reveal themselves in full. And so, part of character creation, there are a lot of different. There's a lot of different characteristics that you can use to create your demonic form. And part of using your demonic form is, if you want, you can go loud, which is Mike, you've read through the Going Loud?
I have not, but
okay. So Going Loud, obviously your demon only has access to a certain amount of etheric resonance and premium. By going loud, you are opening yourself to the full power possible of your cosmic of the cosmic entity that you are. And so you drop your cover, you essentially are almost burning it off, and you then can act as if you've refilled your etheric resonance, and I think it also means you essentially act as if you've got premium 10. So you know how a mummy wakes up and he's all kind of pissed and has maximum... Oh, I can't even remember what the...
Secum.
Secum, you have maximum Secum and all that stuff, and he's pretty much able to destroy an entire city block. In a similar way, demons are able to do that, but the price for that is quite high. So there's a lot of stuff there with premium and the etheric resonance and covers.
Yes, yeah. Just to jump in here, cover is really interesting because it again shows a departure from the the old paradigm of the World of Darkness. When we look at Vampire the Masquerade when it came out back in 1991, you had humanity, and humanity essentially started high, 8, maybe 7, and typically just went downward. It was a downward spiral, and they kept that with the New World of Darkness when the core rule book came out, the old Blue Book, with morality just being this downward spiral, kind of like similar to Sanity in Call of Cthulhu. But now with God Machine Chronicle, with Blood and Smoke, and now Demon, we're seeing that there's a real shift in how these morality and integrity stats really work. And that's why it's so interesting to look at covers, because they can typically go down as your cover is sort of blown, but they can also go up, and you can increase them by grabbing little aspects from other people to bring in there. And you also have multiple, which is something we've never seen before. So I just really wanted to point out how innovative it is right now with this entire system in Demon the Descent.
Yeah, I mean, all of the morality stats across New World of Darkness, there's more of a sense of, I would say, more diversity in the way to make use of them, and they do work in very different ways now. They've got away from that very Victorian doing bad things makes your morality drop and you become more insane. Now insanity is completely disassociated from a character's morality. It means that you can look at what that stat means. So obviously for humans, morality is now about is about how well they resist traumatic events. We're going to see in Werewolf the Forsaken, the harmony is going to be something that has to be in balance. You don't want it too high and you don't want it too low. In Mage, I can see it being quite interesting, because I imagine that if you've got if it's too high, your mage may be too dissociated from very mortal things, because you're too focused on cosmic truths and so forth. And I think we saw some of the start of this change back with say also in Geist with their synergy, because obviously you've got these two entities that are playing around, and also in Changeling, because you don't want your weird, you don't want your clarity to be too high or too low, because if it's too high, you're quite bad at interacting with the hedge and with anything to do with Changelings, and if it's too low, well, you're pretty much a raving lunatic. Because obviously you're just caught up in your imagination and in the realms of dreams and fantasies. So yeah, the cover rating is pretty cool. What else can we say? So obviously we've got a 4x4 system here, which is good. We're not got a classic 5x5 system with like the other groups. So with the incarnations and the agendas. And then, of course, the main core things. Then, as a demon, you've got your covers, you've got your demon attributes, the things that make you demonic. You have a huge maw of metal teeth, and there's all these numerous things that you can build your demon to be quite unique again. And then you've got embeds and exploits that fall into the embeds fall into one of 4 types. So you've got cacophony embeds, which are favored by destroyers. These create destruction. Instrumental embeds, favored by guardians, and these deal with matter. So that's the idea of essentially of creation of things. Mundane embeds, favored by psychopomps, and they deal with secrecy. And vocal embeds are favored by messengers, and these embeds deal with living creatures. Interesting to note how all the terms there for the embeds are all based around the idea of music. Which ties into what we were talking about earlier. And then, of course, you've got exploits, which are more powerful loopholes in reality that can be made use of. Mike, how much have you gone into the kind of way these powers work then, and things that we can see in games?
Really just kind of glanced over them, to be honest. Just kind of looked over a couple of the basic ones. So, I mean, yeah, we can definitely talk about it further.
Yeah, I'm just checking here if there's anything specific. Oh, so obviously for each of the class of agendas that a demon falls into, again, there are specific. You've got conditions related to these agendas. So this is, I think, quite an interesting way of adding on new stuff and new ways of making use of a political group or faction that a character's made that is linked to. So there's a condition that you can make use of. So again, with these conditions, you can gain a beat, and if you resolve them, you gain another beat and other bonuses. So, for example, the Saboteur's condition is an eye for disorder, which means that you have an eye for how to cause chaos, and you gain a beat when the character draws attention to yourself when you're destroying something or unsettling or destabilizing a system. The attention doesn't have to come from the God Machine or its agents. You just, in other words, you do something that will bring upon yourself unwanted attention. And then resolution, the character knows just what to do to turn harmony into dissonance. This may just be words needed to start a fight, or the buttons to press to set off alarms, etc., etc. After performing action intended to create chaos, the player enjoys +3 on a relevant skill roll. So again, there's other conditions related to each of the groups. So I think that's kind of useful in, again, having nudge mechanics to help you play to the themes of the political faction that you've chosen your character to be a member of. Anything else we can say about those groupings? I don't think there's much more we can say. So you've got within demon, you have your type of demon that you are. You have these agendas, and then of course you have the political the groupings of demons that occur within the city. So you have your ring of demons, which is the player group of demons, and then you have these agencies, and agencies are gatherings of demons, and either they have, depending upon what their concerns are, some are just gathered together for their own protection and for their own so they can influence the world how they see fit. Other ones have more of an agenda with the God Machine, and some of these agencies are in fact fronts for the God Machine to destabilize demon society and turn it against itself. So again, that plays into this very kind of spies and espionage and double agents, and that's kind of cool. Of course, as your demon becomes more powerful in Primum, they at level 6 and to 10 you gain glitches. So glitches basically represent how your demon nature is pushing through your covers, and this is again very similar to what we see in Changeling, and it's kind of maybe, I guess, a little similar to the Banes that are now in Blood and Smoke. So we're seeing again this idea that being a powerful creature, person, whatever, within the world of darkness is great, but it's going to come at a price. So let me just check the rules for going loud, because this is kind of, it is, I think, just awesome and kind of insane. So going loud, when all else fails, a demon can get out of a tight spot by just going loud, and it means their cover is set to 0 automatically. They assume their demonic form, their primum is set to 10, and their ether pool is completely filled. Yeah, that's just completely crazy, because I imagine there are so many powers that may depend upon the amount of ether you need to be able to spend, and how much you can spend in a turn, and also rely on maybe your primum as as part of the dice pool. So having it set to 10 and being able to immolate an entire building filled with lackeys of the god machine who are all armed with Uzis or something is incredibly cool.
Yeah, but it also comes at a big price because it's basically a last-ditch effort. If you don't pull this off, whatever you're doing, you're pretty much screwed. So, I mean, it's the it's the final play, basically. And if you pull it off, great. If you don't, well, here come the angels. Powers in Demon are very interesting. Mechanically, they're not too much different than, say, disciplines. You just take two stats, add them together, and that's your die pool that you roll. But the embeds are interesting because it's almost like something changes in the world, and then that's when the demon is able to take advantage of it. They're almost very reactionary in a way. So for example, you can hide a weapon, and when it becomes a hidden weapon, like once that concept enters reality, they can simply just make it better, make it hidden more. There's a lot of very interesting powers and effects in that way. So a demon goes into a crowd, and they simply can become lost in it. They blend in simply because that concept of being lost in a crowd exists. So yeah, it's pretty neat in that way. I'm just kind of like jumping through, kind of looking at a couple of them. And they're not all about, hiding and that sort of thing. Obviously, communication is very large for them. There's one right here called social dynamics, so there we go. Just being able to socialize and get that leg up with normal mortals, because demons and angels know how people are built, and because of that, it makes mortals very easily manipulated, which is another pretty fun, cool concept with Demon the Descent.
What I would say how it sums up demon powers is that because they know how the world operates on an innate level, their powers represent the perfect execution of a concept. So for example, they've got the power of knockout punch, which is, despite what popular media would have people believe, getting knocked out usually indicates a serious injury, often accompanying brain damage. If it doesn't cause such damage, a sharp blow to the head is usually just painful. A demon operates different constraints. With this embed, a demon can knock a target unconscious and specify when the target will revive. So that's what I mean. It's the perfect. They have such a link to the very programming of reality that they know how to do something in the exact manner to get that effect. So while a mage is not aware of the program of reality, they certainly know how to bloody well hack it to get the effect they want. But they're having to do a lot of messing around and doing stuff which obviously amounts to eventually to paradox, depending upon how big a change they're trying to enable. Whereas a demon is is part of that code, so he knows exactly what bit to fire and which bit not to get the desired effect. And that's the difference between them.
Yeah, pretty neat.
And then, obviously, I'm just going to see if we can pick out some other fun embeds here. Download knowledge, pretty much does exactly what it says on the tin, which is demons who might be expected to know the answer disagree with this. They do know that with the proper understanding, they can absorb knowledge from the very mystical subroutines of the universe that allow their embeds. Whether that means they're taking the knowledge from a human collective consciousness or simply just downloading it from the God machine. So yeah, they just get temporary. Let me see. The character uploads instead of downloads. Is the failure, sorry. Success. The character gains temporary skill dots equal to the number of successes on the embed roll, and this is for a skill they need, and it lasts for a scene. They are your... Demons are pretty much your Agent Smith from The Matrix, essentially, because they're able to do stuff within the limits of the very programming of reality, whereas, all the hacker guys, in the Matrix are able to do stuff beyond that because they know how to see the limits and break them. Anything else, Mike, you liked powers-wise there?
I think that pretty much covers embeds. Exploits are similar, they're more powerful, and they usually cost Aether points to use. The only interesting thing I wanted to know, I'm trying to see if I can find it again, but typically the dice pools for exploits get very large. You're adding not only like a stat and a skill, you're also adding in your premium statistic, the power stat. And a couple times, not that many, you actually subtract a stat. Yeah, here we go. Frozen in time is intelligence plus science plus primum minus your stamina, which is pretty cool and not something you typically see in World of Darkness, but yeah, that's good.
A minus. That is kind of different, that one. I've just found another one. Muse, which is manipulation plus expression minus resolve.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's really different. And so, Mike, with the exploits, I mean, as you've gone through that, is there anything again that's kind of ridiculous that you've read that it's just massively powerful?
I don't know about massively powerful, but I'm just looking at Demon House right now, which is where the God Machine gives angels or demons a cover as an inanimate object, such as a building. So that's definitely something very different. It would be pretty funky to play as a demon house. But I think a good storyteller could get around some of the storytelling issues with that. Actually, I was just kind of brainstorming or thinking, is there a ghoul or thrall equivalent for the demon? I can't seem to recall.
Stigmatics.
Oh, what's the deal with them? Just to throw in another tangent.
A stigmatic is a person that has come into contact in some way with the God Machine or the entities related to the God Machine and are tainted by it. Let me just see if I can find find that one, because it is interesting. Character creation. Can I find stigmatic? Select merits. So obviously there's a good point to talk about actually antagonists within the game. So you've got people in general, obviously, angels. You've got exiles, which are demons due to the God Machine purposefully cutting off an angel for whatever reason. You've got cryptids. So these are, obviously are creatures and people and things which have been influenced by their exposure to the God Machine and are now different. So obviously you've got reptile people, you've got the Mothman. Those are all very classic things there. And then you have stigmatic, which I will search for now.
So the stigmatics are antagonists? They're not.
Well, they can be. Well, they could either be members of your cult if you're a demon, or they can be antagonists. It depends upon how they're being used, or if the God Machine is using them.
I see.
I'm just trying to find the.
I also just found a little blurb about the Kashmalum in the book.
Oh yeah, they're mentioned a lot in this book. Okay, so there's a bit of description of how demons can interact with other supernatural creatures. So obviously, ghosts can turn up because obviously the God Machine might have a use for a ghost, as in it has a ghost taken away from somewhere to be used as a defensive infrastructure. For some house. So the classic haunted house on the top of the hill? Well, that's because that's actually the defensive infrastructure for something that's within the house or beneath the house. And vampires, because of the very nature of their society, it ties in well with demons as well, because both need to hide to a certain extent. And of course, mages and demons seem to cross paths far too often because they're both interested and aware of the actions of the god machine. This also means that sometimes they're absolute enemies or they're really good allies, because mages can do things that demons can't, and demons can get things done that mages can't. So there's a lot of scope for that. And then changelings represent an interesting point for demon, because demons find changelings interesting in the sense that they've escaped something, again, cosmic kind of scale entities. But where demons draw the line is that they find that some of the things that changelings do with their pacts and their pledges is a little bit. Oh no, wait, sorry, wrong way around. Changelings find problems with demons with their pacts because they see it as too much. That idea of soul stealing is a bit too similar to what the Fae do. And then with Prometheans, again, there's an interest in Prometheans because they're these created entities, things that are human but not human, and weren't born. And of course, the Quashelim come into it because they are similar to angels. They have scope for such monumental actions, yet they're not angels of the God machine. And so often there is this interplay between do you know that whether or not you're interacting with a Quashelim, an angel of the God machine, or you could be interacting with a demon from the Inferno or one of those type realms, or you could be interacting with I'm trying to think of the term, but when the archmages that are locked away in the supernal realms, they can send like themselves in kind of an astral form. You could be interacting with one of them, or you could be interacting with some greater spirit, or God forbid, one of the Idigam. So yeah, there's a lot of scope for overlap with this game, which I think is really great. So stigmatics, in fact, stigmatics are you can inflict it upon someone. So I think it's an embed. You can actually make someone a stigmatic. And if I go to chapter 4 in the book, I can tell you a bit more about what that finally means. Is it going to load fast enough? No, it's not. I think that's what's going to be right here.
Inflict stigmata. I got this.
You've got the inflict stigmata, yeah.
Quote from page 168. Yeah, so inflict stigmata. Stigmatics, described in chapter 4, are human beings that can see the workings of the God machine. Some of them wind up working directly for the God machine, hunting demons, facilitating infrastructure, or performing whatever their unknowable master asks of them. Some of them don't and wind up terrified of their newfound knowledge, or form cults or religions based on their visions. Some stigmatics are born, but others come to their condition after witnessing the works of the God machine. Demons are able to stimulate this condition as well, though once a human has turned stigmatic, the demon has no control over how he will react to this newfound enlightenment. And it goes on to give you a dice pool of presence plus occult plus premium and 1 ether.
Yeah.
So there you go.
So they're kind of fun. And then also the other thing that you can do is that demons can impregnate and become pregnant. So, and that depends upon which cover, because remember that demons are essentially gender fluid in that sense because of depending upon their cover. So they can create people, they can give birth to or cause the birth of people that are touched by demonic powers. So again, that is quite different.
Yeah, it is a little different. Kind of gives the movie Junior, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, a whole new World of Darkness meeting. But
Yes. So yeah, stigmatics. There's an entire chapter in the storytelling section on what life as a stigmatic is, and how you interact with people, and how you can play as one. So obviously they are a playable type of character. So you could that would be quite strange kind of game to play through, where you've got a demon or two and their group of stigmatic cultists. And then, of course, cryptids that you have in here, they again can sense the aether and feed off it. They are difficult to detect, so they have something which is called camera shy. So they blur cameras, so because obviously they have some sort of field. And then there's a few powers and adaptions that you can give them. And the examples of Mothmen, reptilians, and then other antagonists are things like sleeper agents. So again, these are people that have been reprogrammed, ready to be used by the God Machine for whatever purposes. So there is a lot of different things in this game. Which really brings, I guess, the point of playing the demon and what immediately jumps to mind. I mean, I say, normally, I know, for me, I can judge a game usually on how quickly I can form the idea of a basic chronicle. So obviously, Hunter's really easy. You can make chronicles for that quite fairly simple, following a kind of freak of the week kind of structure, and then adding in a larger plot arc. Obviously, vampire, werewolf, mage, I've got chronicles for already, and I've got an idea for a Geist chronicle. But with demon, I think I would have to approach creating a chronicle for that slightly differently. Well, I wouldn't say slightly differently. I think the focus is maybe different. Is not so much on NPCs and how they're interacting and creating that web of intrigue and seeing who wants what and why and so forth. I think with demon, because your ultimate antagonist is the God Machine, is maybe you want to look at what are the core infrastructures that you want your party of demons to discover and try and stop, and then interweave with that more infrastructures, some of which are intended red herrings, to give this idea that the God Machine is doing its best to hide things. And then, of course, you can build on top of that other groups of demons that are hindering the group's actions because they want to make use of certain infrastructures for their own purposes. Because obviously you may have your group go, well, we should destroy this infrastructure because it presents such a threat, whereas another group of demons, the NPC demons, may want that infrastructure to remain because they want to use it as a center to restore their own ether, or make use of the stuff it makes. Maybe it is sucking the innards out of people and leaving behind their fleshy skins, and they want to use it as a means to create new patch job covers or something like that. Yeah, Mike, any ideas on running demon? The other thing we haven't spoken yet about is the cipher, which is a complicated thing, but we'll get to that, I think.
Yeah, I've been thinking about the how to run demon a little bit, and it almost seems like, there's a section in the book, Jack, I sent to Chigg. It's about how what does a demon do all day? Just kind of like a little snapshot, day in the life, that sort of thing.
It's a good section. I'm glad that they included it.
And it really kind of spells out what demons do, at least on a daily, monthly, yearly basis, that sort of thing. Challenges that they have to go through, making sure that they keep their ether stores full, investigating into different infrastructure in the area. I think I'm not sure that I agree that this game is more about the places than the people, but you might change it so that the people are definitely side characters which help accentuate the human nature that angels or demons are now involved with.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely a strong thing that came across in that section, was that demons, they don't have a lot of time for it, but when they do, they are just going to try to be normal people. Enjoy that pizza buy with somebody. So maybe a good way to do it is that you have these particular characters. Most of them are okay, but of course you're gonna have to put in some red herrings or people that could possibly blow the demon's cover. And then you slowly have the infrastructure and aspects of the God Machine just kind of being this niggling distraction under the surface, which the demons have to constantly be looking out for. Whether it be that, the demon goes out to do something with this very friendly NPC, and then they see that infrastructure in the background, that large factory, which he knows has a beating heart in the center of it. So that's kind of how I look at least right now. I mean, I haven't dug into the Seattle setting yet, which I'm sure has a lot of very interesting story hooks. It kind of seems like you kind of want to start things off a little slow and then ramp it up to when the demon has no other options but to confront the infrastructure and the God Machine itself.
Yeah, I think you're right with how it's important to humanize the story with the very people that demons interact with, especially for each of their covers. So again, there's a lot more focus on, I would say, on how important character creation is in the sense that maybe it's important to have good descriptions for each of their covers and the people they know in each of these covers, because each of those persons can then be a risk, as you say, to their cover being blown and things going bad. In that sense, it's kind of similar, and I think there's maybe some inspiration could be found and ideas can be found from looking at Mage as well, because Mage has sort of the same sort of setup where mages have their normal everyday mortal life, and then they obviously have when they're dealing with anything to do with other mages, they have their shadow name, and they try their best to again separate those two lives if they can, or if they have to, totally leave their normal mortal life because of the threat it presents, due to either it being other mages that want to use them, or if it's mages of, say, the Tremere or the Exarchs, and much like, and again, then obviously there's similarity to Vampire, because in Vampire, people are important to vampires as their touchstones, which help them retain their humanity. But obviously, each person they interact with again presents a risk to their cover being blown and a bunch of hunters coming after them.
Yep, absolutely. So, Chigg,
that's me.
You're a gentleman who's a bit of a classic World of Darkness fan, but you've been here for many discussions of Demon. So I just want to kind of pick your brain a little bit. Are there any, maybe not story ideas, but maybe just like a character or something that's kind of jumped out at you that, like, hey, this might be kind of interesting to play?
Yeah, it sounds like a really different, a really fun game, a spy cell kind of game. Listening to you guys discuss the powers today and the stigmatics, it might be fun to play as a stigmatic cultist whose demon is the building where they all live.
That's what I was thinking.
Some ideas.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking when I was talking about the demon house. Is like, well,
right.
If you're stuck there in your house, you should have that kind of that troop style character.
Yeah, I mean, and it could just be random people who are in this house when the demon takes over, and that is their shared awakening experience. That they were the ones who were home when the demon took this house as its cover.
That would be pretty cool. And that ties in pretty well with Mummy the Curse and its whole setup.
Mm-hmm.
Except now you're not worshipping the mummy, you're just living in your demon house. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And you're super not wanting your rent controlled apartment building to be torn down by the city or whatever. So when it tells you to go out and get that orphan heart from the center of that factory downtown, you go out and you get that orphan heart because you're saving a lot of money on rent.
I would say with Demon, the other thing is it's important when maybe doing your kind of story crafting and planning out your chronicle and the individual segments of it, or episodes, depending on how you run it. I think there's a danger maybe to get too caught up with trying to work out what the God Machine is wanting to do, and maybe you need to focus more on what is the immediate effect of the God Machine's actions to the people that the demon knows around it. Because then again, that then makes it a far more personal story. You really need to reinforce the fact that you are never going to know what the God Machine's doing, and your players are never really going to understand it. Even the demons don't understand it. Neither will mages. Obviously, God Machine Chronicles is a really, really useful book to have next to you when doing this story crafting, because again, there are numerous example infrastructures there, so you can already start putting together a chronicle, and then then it makes it easier for you to kind of come up with new infrastructures and new antagonists.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's some cool ideas in there. Like the other thing is that some demons will try and cause a confrontation between between a Quashmal and an angel, and that's just an insane sort of scene to imagine as two of these cosmic entities, locked in a fight against each other, and it's causing all this etheric resonance to pour off the angel and thus power up the demons, and at the same time there's all this pyros going everywhere, and that's waking up Pandorans and so forth, and it's maybe causing a firestorm. That's something in Promethean.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah.
So I think that's it we have to discuss with Demon, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's good closing. Cool. So, Darker Days Radio. All right, we have our contest going on right now. There's only going to be a couple weeks to submit your answers. So, if you're driving the car, pull over, stop, and send over your entry, which may just be Gruntar the Fruitang, over to darkerdaysradio@gmail.com. So, just to reiterate, this is the question is, what do you think the new World of Darkness game line will be? And if you are randomly selected from our very large pool of contestants, you will win a signed copy of the God Machine Chronicles, given to us by not only Matt McFarland, who's signing it, but also Peter Marshall, Darker Days Radio Australian correspondent. So there we go. That's it. So yeah, of course, if you need to send us an email, darkerdaysradio@gmail.com. We're on Facebook, where we don't interact with people all that much, but that's what happens. People interact with us a lot, but we don't, make that many posts, which is kind of one of the interesting things about our Facebook group. So that's facebook.com/darkerdaysradio. And of course, we're on G+, where we do not have a very simple URL, but if you just search on Google Plus for Darker Days Radio, you will find our community, which is always hopping. I don't know what we've been discussing lately.
G+, I've been resharing some of the Onyx Path updates about Werewolf, the Forsaken, as Stu gives hints on the what's going on. Well, gives us the more than hints. Their insight into Idigam Chronicles. What else? There's generally anything that pops up on G+ that's interesting. So I think the last thing that was interesting other thing that was interesting was what the upcoming Kickstarter for Drakeries, that war game, which I want a miniature from. So that's something to look at. But yeah, there's plenty going on there. Yeah, Twitter. I haven't been posting enough stuff on Twitter. I actually personally don't use Twitter enough. But then Twitter's compared to G+, I find Twitter a bit shouting into the void. But we do, when we do bother, we do post our episode links there, so people can interact with us on Twitter.
Definitely.
Do we use anything else? Oh, we've got the blog spot as always. Sam now has access to it, so I think she'll be porting over some of her movie reviews, and I think there's a few horror movie reviews to put in there. Sam, you're going to review for us Hannibal season 2.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Do you need a week to recover?
Yeah, I think we're gonna watch it again and then.
No, that was it. That's the review. Oh God.
Oh God, that's the review. Yeah. And is there anything else, Mike? Anywhere else that we can be contacted by?
Nope, I don't think so.
And
so
then
that's pretty much it.
I have been asking James if he's interested in doing some kind of like a Darkling, but we just talk a bit more, just talk smack about wargaming and computer games maybe, because obviously that's overlapping interest, and since we're all seem to be dabbling in other gaming that isn't World of Darkness and isn't roleplay games, it might be fun to do that once in a while where we just talk about gaming in general and what stuff we've found interesting, because we all like mechanics and we all like settings, so I'll have a think about when we should do that. But that might be a Google Plus Hangout thing, just so we don't have to edit it.
Mm-hmm.
And also we can show off miniatures on camera. It's really easy and stuff like that. So
totally.
Always a plus.
Maybe I should paint some of my World of Darkness miniatures.
Maybe you should paint some stuff like that, Mike. And then you got your Signar and Scorn painted up?
The Signar painted, the Scorn not so much.
That'd be kind of cool to see.
Yeah.
Wicked.
Okay, cool. Well, I think that's it for Darker Days Radio. Yeah. Good night.
See ya.
Whee! Hey, before we start this next section, hey Chris.
Mm-hmm.
When you were at the convention, do they have a dealer's room?
I don't know what you mean.
Like, do they have people there? Because at conventions here, they have just a whole room devoted to people selling you things.
Right. So Essen Spiel is all mixed up. So everything is selling everywhere.
Okay. Do they have like used stuff or non-first print?
They do.
Fantastic.
There are people that have. Yeah, because I mean I've been there.
Wait a minute.
For, like,
fantastic.
Wait a minute.
I want you to
No, Chigg, Chris, Monde de Tenebris, France. If you find a copy of that, you should get it from me.
Right, we'll just have to email me all this
You should get
stuff.
it for me because I started asking first. Screw you, Mike. I'm
What?
first.
No, but I've been looking for that for years.
No, I have. It's the only Changeling book I don't own.
It's not really a Changeling book. It has a
Changeling
green
stuff in
marble cover.
It is the only place where you can find the
Sorry,
Chlorid Kiss.
which book are you looking for?
It's called Le Monde de Ténèbres, France, and I probably totally ruined that. It's put out by the French license holder who got to print all the White Wolf stuff in France.
Yeah.
There's a link.
It's also of questionable legality because we're not sure if they should have actually been printing their own material and using all that stuff. So that's why I don't think it's ever been put in print on demand on like DriveThru RPG or anything, or even released on DriveThru RPG.
So if you find a copy of that, and it's less than, let's say, $50 American,
Less than 60 for this guy.
I'm not gonna get into a bidding.
I'll even throw in something for you, Chris. Something nice.
Yeah, we'll see. Because I mean, I went there looking for a copy of Hunter the Vigil because I don't have a hard copy of that.
I will get you a hard copy of Hunter the Vigil, Chris. I will get it signed if you want.
I'll get you the entire game line. I'm gonna regret that. But anyway.
Anyway, onto the old world of darkness.
Oh, right.